I thought I knew everything about my straight roommate, Chris. We'd been living together for over a year, and I'd always seen him as just that, a roommate. But one night, while I was fast asleep, he did something that completely shattered that belief. When I woke up, I couldn't believe what I saw. What happened next was so intense that it turned my whole world upside down. It started out like any other night. I had just finished a long day of classes and work, exhausted and ready to crash in bed. Nothing out of the ordinary, at least that's what I thought. I've been living with Chris for over a year now. He's always been straight, as far as I knew. In fact, when I first moved in, I didn't think much of it. We were just two college guys trying to make it in the world. Chris and I hit it off right away. We'd hang out, grab beers, talk about life, but it never really went beyond that. Chris was always kind of jock, big, athletic, always surrounded by girls. I was the quieter one, more into books and gaming. It was easy to fall into a comfortable routine with him. He was just that easygoing, and I didn't really mind the differences between us. I mean, it wasn't like I had a reason to think things could ever go beyond what they were. He had his girlfriend, and I kept my attraction to him hidden. I didn't think he'd ever see me that way. Besides, he was straight. But things started to change about 2 weeks ago. I'm not sure when it started. Maybe it was a gradual shift, or maybe I'm just now realizing it. Something was different. We'd still hang out, still talk about whatever was on our minds, but there were these little moments, little glances, brief touches. Nothing overt, nothing that could be easily noticed, but I noticed, and I tried to ignore it. I told myself I was reading too much into it, that maybe I was just imagining things. It didn't help that Chris had started acting a little different around me. More playful, more flirtatious, like he was trying to get a reaction out of me. I remember one night in particular. Chris and I had spent the evening watching some ridiculous action movie. Both of us sprawled on the couch, sharing a bag of chips. He had been unusually touchy, nudging my arm, laughing a little too close. But even then, I pushed it aside. It didn't mean anything, right? Just Chris being himself. But then that night, the night it happened, everything changed. It was after a night out. We had gone to a party just to unwind, nothing serious. I'd had a few drinks, but nothing too crazy. We came back to the apartment late, and I remember feeling tired, my body sore from standing and dancing in a crowded space. Chris had been quiet for most of the walk home, but when we got inside, he turned to me with a weird smile. Not his usual goofy grin, but something more intense. "You good?" he asked, his voice a little softer than usual. I nodded, shrugging off my jacket as I headed for my room. "Yeah, just tired. Going to crash." "All right, bro," he said, dragging his feet. Then, as I was about to close my door, I heard him speak again. "Hey, you mind if I crash in here tonight? I don't know. I just don't feel like sleeping alone." I turned to face him, raising an eyebrow. "Huh?" He scratched the back of his neck, looking a little awkward. "I mean, I know it's weird, but I'm kind of not feeling it. Can we just hang for a bit?" At this point, my mind was racing. What was going on? We had shared a couch plenty of times, but this felt different. Still, I didn't want to make it weird, so I said, "Yeah, sure, whatever." Chris settled into the bed next to me, and I remember how he adjusted his pillow for a few minutes. We didn't say anything for a while, but then he shifted slightly closer to me. His body warmth spread across the bed, and that's when I felt it, the tension, something that hadn't been there before, something I couldn't explain. I tried to ignore it, focusing on the dull hum of the city outside. But Chris's presence was overwhelming. There was no way to brush it off anymore. Something was definitely going on, and I was starting to wonder if he felt it too. The next thing I knew, my eyes fluttered closed, and I was drifting off into a sleep that I didn't realize was about to change everything. Then I woke up in the middle of the night, not from a noise or anything specific, but from a feeling, a sense that something wasn't quite right. The room was dark, save for the faint glow of streetlights peeking through the blinds. My body felt warm, but not in a comfortable way. There was a strange pressure on the bed beside me. I turned my head, blinking to adjust to the dim light. That's when I noticed it. Chris was still there, but he wasn't just lying beside me anymore. No, he was closer, a lot closer. I could feel his breath against the back of my neck, warm and steady. His arm was draped across my body, his hand resting lightly on my chest. For a brief moment, I froze. My heart began to race as I tried to make sense of what was happening. What was he doing? I could have sworn I'd felt his body shift against mine while I was asleep, but I hadn't woken up until now. His breath was steady, like he was still sleeping, but that closeness was impossible to ignore. I carefully tried to move, but Chris's arm tightened around me, pulling me in closer. For a second, I wondered if this was a mistake. Maybe he didn't realize how close we were. Maybe he was just drunk and confused. But then I felt something else, something hard pressing against my back. A sudden wave of realization hit me, and I couldn't suppress the breath that escaped my lips. My heart hammered in my chest. There was no mistaking it. He was aroused. Panic surged through me. But at the same time, I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. I had no idea what to do. Was I supposed to say something? Should I move away? Or was I overthinking things? Maybe this was just an accident, right? Maybe I was imagining things. But then, just as quickly as the panic set in, Chris shifted again. His face nuzzled the back of my neck, his lips brushing against my skin in a soft, almost tender gesture. I could feel his breath on me, his body now pressed so close to mine that it was impossible to ignore the undeniable chemistry building between us. What the hell is going on, I thought. My mind raced. Chris, straight Chris, was acting like this, but how could this be happening? Was he just playing around, or was this some weird joke? But then he whispered, and his voice was so low, so quiet that I almost didn't catch it. "Are you awake?" I barely nodded, trying to control the pounding of my heart. His hand shifted on my chest, fingers grazing lightly over my skin, and I couldn't help but tense up. The way his touch lingered felt too intentional. "I don't know why I'm doing this." Chris's voice was shaky now, filled with an uncertainty I wasn't used to hearing from him. He paused for a second, as if considering his next words. My mind was screaming at me to move, to get out of this situation before it escalated further. But something held me there, a mix of confusion, desire, and uncertainty. I wasn't sure if I was ready to hear whatever he was about to say, but I was already too far in. "Chris," I said softly, my voice trembling despite my best efforts to remain calm. He didn't pull away or apologize. Instead, he tightened his grip on me ever so slightly. His lips brushed my neck again, and this time I could feel the heat of his breath more intensely. It was as if he were testing the waters, unsure whether I would pull away. "I don't know what's happening, but I need to know something," Chris said, his voice barely a whisper. I could feel the tension in his words, like he was fighting with something inside himself. "What is it?" I asked, even though I could feel my own breath getting caught in my throat. The tension between us was electric now. His hand slid down my chest, dangerously close to where my body responded without thinking. I could feel every inch of him against me, and I didn't know whether to pull away or let it happen. "I don't know if I can stop myself," he confessed, his voice ragged. "I'm not supposed to feel this way. I can't, but I want to." My entire body froze. Chris was confessing something, but what was he talking about? His feelings for me, or was he just confused, drunk, and caught up in the moment? Before I could say anything, Chris's lips were suddenly against mine, soft, unsure, but undeniably there. That was it. I couldn't push him away. I didn't know how to. His kiss was tentative at first, as if he were waiting for me to stop him, but I didn't. I couldn't. The warmth of his body